Welcome to the chapter 13 of the discussion today, which is on informal and formal groups. If you remember, in the introduction session we tried to discuss on like how an individual with all his background variables of his attitudes, his needs, his values, his personal interests, likes, dislikes, his own demography, his personality pattern, his emotions, come to the organization, interacts with another individual in the organizational setup, communicate with each other, and as a result what develops is a group, and that is a part of the group formation, and also which we call to be informal groups, which are like minded group forms out of interest levels and satisfaction of needs. And also, like when you join an organization today, you join a role, and there are certain role expectations of others from that particular role, and you join a particular group in the organization and in a particular position. So, these are again formal groups, and various dynamics takes place as a part of that, like when you become a member of that group, communication, then conflicts, issues of leadership, then groups transforming to team or not, and how groups get formed, what are the rules and regulations of the groups which is get formed. Many issues come up at the group level which affects the performance of the individual per se within the group, or as a whole, like if you are speaking in totality, the performance of the group itself. So, it is very important to study the various characteristics of the group, how it is getting formed, like what are the norms, what are the different types of groups, how groups make their own decisions, what are the group performance, how it gets improved, what are the criteria in respect of organizational behavior. So, here in this chapter we will try to focus on the understanding of nature of groups, types of groups, reasons of group formation, stages of group development, characteristics of groups, group decision making techniques, end result of group formation, and effectiveness of groups. So, what we will start with is the nature of groups. The definition of group itself can be viewed from different approaches. So, and first we will start with the perception approach. In perception approach, people who see themselves as members of a particular group, then only that group formation takes place. So, I have to perceive myself as a member of a group, and I have to perceive another person also as a particular member of a group, or we may say as my own group member. Then only a collection of people who see themselves as a particular member of a particular group, then only a group formation takes place. And a team is a matured group which is formed, and in where there is a degree of membership interdependence, and the members are motivated to achieve a common goal, and they start out as teams start out as groups, but the other aspect is not always true, like all groups do not mature as teams, or they do not become teams. Next we have organization approach. So, it tells like group is a organized system of individual who who are connected with one another. And in a motivational approach, so it's a group is a collection of individuals whose collective existence satisfies needs. So when you're talking of more of informal group, it is based on this motivational approach, where people come together to satisfy some of their needs. When it is an interaction approach, it is a two or more individuals who come and interact with each other in order to accomplish a common goal. So, there are actually three specific like minimum criteria for groups to be formed. So, one in this, the first one is of course the size. So, we need, so must be sort of two or more individuals in order to form a group. Next is the interaction must be see some form of exchange or communication. The people have to communicate with each other. And third, like they must be coming together in order to achieve certain goal. So, these three characteristics should be there in the interaction approach, to be considered in the interaction approach, to consider like whether a group has been formed or not. When we are talking of types of groups, again types of groups are broadly classified into two headings, like one is the formal group and the other is the informal group. So, formal group is more established by the organization to perform organizational work, and informal group is which comes out of the employees' social needs, and it forms very naturally, because it's more of a motivational approach. So, in formal group, again the divisions of formal group are like command group, which is more specified by the organizational chart, and where people are placed somewhere in some positions in the organization, and they interact based on those hierarchies and levels that what they are in. That is command group, the chain of command, how it runs through the organization and how they interact based on that. Next is the task group, which is based like on interaction of certain group. Some people come together to perform certain tasks, projects at hand, and these are called, examples are like self-managed teams. So, again informal groups which are formed mainly to satisfy social needs and which evolve naturally. So, there could be classifications like interest groups, where people of the same mutual objective or interest meet together to form a group, and also like another one is the friendship group, which form because members have something in common. The difference between formal and informal group is that, so formal groups are defined by the organization and as a means to certain end. End is over here the reaching of organizational objective or organizational performance or group performance and all this. But informal groups are formed for the sake of formation itself, and it is not a means to a particular end, but the group itself is the end, because we love to be with each other and we like the company of each other in organization, because we can share our interests and needs. why people form groups is like, first is satisfaction of needs, like social needs. So, as we are discussing, it helps in providing a vehicle for interacting with others. Security needs. So, it can group can act again as a buffer between the demands made by the organization on the individual and the employees' way of seeing those demands and interpreting those demands. We were discussing the same thing when we were discussing stress and counseling. Peers can act as an important buffer in your stress stress management process, and they can be good sources of counseling also, by providing you a comfort zone to share your minds, your difficulties, grievances, and helping you to have maybe a new look into the ways of seeing things. C is esteem needs, which is fulfilled by the prestige that the group gives. The group membership itself conveys certain prestige on the member, so sometimes it fulfills the esteem needs. Next, we come to one of the important issues, like why group gets formed, is proximity and attraction. So, proximity involves the physical walking distance between the people performing a certain job. So, if somebody is sitting very close to me in the office, or we are sharing the same office space or something, then it's a general tendency like the group will get formed. Attraction is where we are talking of attraction, is more of a mental phenomena, where people are attracted towards each other to form a group because of perceptual, attitudinal, or motivational and performance similarity. So, maybe the physical proximity is not there, but because people are mentally close based on certain parameters, they choose to form groups. Third important point is the group goal. If it appears to be attractive to a particular person or group or people, they will try to join particular group because the goal itself is very attractive. Next is economic reasons. Is people sometimes join groups because they feel like the group will be protecting them and help them in economic betterment, like labor union with a record of securing members higher wages will have better membership than the other labor union who may not have such records. Next, we will come to the stages of group development, and it has got 5 stages. We will take each of these separately. First is and each you will see is a more progressive and solidifying state. So, the first stage is called the forming stage, which is characterized by like more of uncertainty, like regarding what is the group's purpose and what will be its structure and leadership qualities like. So, the activities involve more of defining and understanding the group goals, objectives, and what are the different assignments. So, after each of the interactions, it is tested and it's been tried, and then based on the results, either it is discarded or it is adopted. So, the more diverse the group, the more it is difficult in forming because of the sensitive stage of cultural issues in perceiving, different ways of communicating, different ways of expressing emotions. So, in the multicultural group, it takes time in forming a particular group, because we have to take into consideration so many diversity issues before we can arrive at something common. So, here we see in this picture that the pre-stage, then stage is called forming. After that, we will move through like storming. In storming, what happens after coming closer, people are trying to test each other views and test like who will take what position, sort of based on their, and whether to accept and not to accept certain things. And it's a very stage of debate going on based on how to establish what will be the group's principles and all these things. So, it is characterized by conflict and confrontation. It involves redefinition of groups' tasks and goals based on the review and maybe conflict and confrontation. Members may begin to withdraw because they are no longer interested in the new tasks developed for the group or the new goal set. And if the conflict is not taken care of at this stage, it will be a future problem at future stages. After the phase of norming is over, then we come to the third phase, which is that of norming. In norming, what it is characterized by cooperation and collaboration, and generally after the storm is over, the cohesiveness begins. So, open communication, significant interaction and efforts to agree on goals occur, and behavioral norms are established. So, you see like our system is developing, everything is becoming some sort of systematic out of that more or less haphazard situation which was present at the pre-stage, or which was just started getting shape in the forming and in the storming state. In the performing state, the group is fully functional. So, the structure and roles are set and accepted. So, some groups will attain a level of effectiveness that remains more or less constant, others continue to change. Next point is that of adjourning. So, it results in the termination of group activities resulting from task completion and goal attainment. So, two things may happen over here. It is a positive emotion, like okay, I have been able to complete the task at hand, my task is giving positive results, I have attained my goal, but still it like gives a feeling of loss or disappointment, because now what I will do, what is there for me next, and all these questions come up. So, adjourning may be marked by both by positive emotions as well as feelings of loss, disappointment or anger. This is an alternative model where we call temporary groups with deadlines, and it is called punctuated equilibrium model. So, what is happening over here? Like sometimes while performing, a state of inertia is present, and people may find a performance lag during that period. So, what happens, like if you are waiting for the deadline, generally at the beginning you are not very serious about the things to be done. Then in the halfway, suddenly as if you are waking up and you start hurrying, and there is a rise in productivity, increase in productivity, and again there is a drop, as if you can wait for the deadline sort of, and then ultimately is what you reach the deadline, and before that again there is an increase in productivity. So you find like alternate periods of inertia and activity. So when temporary groups are functioning, so what we can try to do is we have to break this whole period into smaller periods, so that the continuous level of like energy is maintained and the waiting period is made less. And if the first stage, if you know, like A is the waiting period, so we can break up A into A1, A2, A3, A4 and so on, so that each of the smaller waiting periods become less and it starts showing the performance level moves up. So the sequence of action could be setting up a group direction. There is a first phase of inertia, then in halfway point there is a transition taking place from inertia to highest activity. Then some major changes are happening and you come to like the second phase of inertia again, like after a certain wait, okay, we can wait, the deadline is not here too near, and then when it comes very nearly, it will be an accelerated activity. So these are the sequence of actions taking place in punctuated equilibrium model. So what we really have to do is break the things, break the time frame. Like if you can focus over here, like if from A you find at B, and suppose these are 3 time frames, this is A, B and C, this is mid and this is end. So what you get is like a state of inertia over here, sudden jerks you get over here, then again there is inertia and then some rapid activity over at the end. So what may happen, the quality may suffer, the quality of what you produce suffer, because you are not maintaining a consistent effort throughout. So what can be done, this whole phase A and B, suppose it's broken down into smaller phases. So you will go on experiencing these type of things, and like it's broken down into shorter periods, and then you have a like waiting time and peak performance for it, and as a result what you add up, you will find the waiting time is less come to a less amount, and people are showing performance. As a result, performance will improve. So that because these are being punctuated in between, that is why it is called punctuated equilibrium model. When you are talking of characteristics of groups, group characteristics depend on certain things like composition of the group, status, hierarchy and size. So, like when you are talking of composition, so it is a pattern of relationship between the members, that the positions will arise over time and be based on the job description also, what each role has to play, expectations from the job, and based on that the composition is there. And if it is a team, then so who will be the team members and what will be the structure of the organization. So status hierarchy is the different status levels assumed by group members about the member positions. So its status can be ascribed or it can be assigned also. So next important is group size. where it's not prudent to have either a too much large or too much small group. In either case it's bad. So, because if there is a too much large group, there is a phenomenon of social loafing, where people try to expend less energy to their work when working collectively, because when than when working individually, because if they know, like if there is a too big group size, nobody will get to notice, like if I am just lazing out and not doing anything. So, that is called social loafing. So, it is better, like the group size is between 5 to 7, which is not very small and also not which is very large, and so that as situations are going out of hand, and you just see like the performance is coming down, because everybody is thinking like the other person is going to work on behalf of me. Another concept which is connected with the group is the group roles. So, a set of expected behaviors assumed by each position in the group is called group roles, and it is divided into few categories like perceived role, the set of behaviors that the position holder believes or he or she should enact. Then expected role, then which is the behaviors expected by the group or organization. Enacted role is actually what you act out, the set of behaviors that the position holder exhibits, and as a result of all these things there could be conflict and frustration, which may result when the three roles differ from each other. Like what you perceive is not perceived to be the role is not what is expected by the organization, or that is not enacted by you of what the organization demands, then it will lead to conflict and frustration. One important part of group characteristics is of course like the group norms, and these are standards of behavior shared by the group members. Group norms are specific behaviors considered important by the group. So, and are accepted in different stages by different members. And third is like all the norms do not apply to all the members. So, when we see, like when we talk of only pertains to behaviors important perceived to be important by the groups, means like the norm is about the behavior which is thought to be important, so that people will follow the stated directed pattern correctly, and then will perform the behavior which is important per se to the group, and there is no less of avenue for people to interpret the group's demands in different ways, and maybe the commonality thread is lost. So, when even an issue, particular issue or whenever situation is important to the organization, so the more norms are very specific to it. So, group norms, again not everybody accept the group norms at the same level or understand it at the same level also. So, what happens, like they are accepted into different degrees by the different members based on their choices to be made, sort of background variables that they have. So, and another thing, don't apply norms, don't apply necessarily to all members. So, sometimes you say, okay, so the top boss is beyond all rules, sort of. Now, these have to be questioned, but that is generally what is assumed. So, acceptable norm behavior can be different from the group's perspective. So, what we will try to find out, like when we are talking of norm conformity, so what it is to which a member conforms to norms. The first important thing is it depends, like whether you conform to certain norm or not, it depends on your individual personal characteristics. So, more intelligent people are less likely to be comfortable with the norms, but less intelligent people will try to conform to the norms, and because for them the existence in the organization is one of the major issues. So, again authoritarian members conform more than less authoritarian members, because authoritarian members loves following rules and regulations. Situational factors, the two very important situational factors are of course group size and group structure, and has an immense effect on like group cohesiveness, then group productivity, etc. Intergroup relationships. So, in this, the degree to which members identify with the group, then the other groups pressure on this particular group, all these things will determine the intergroup relationship, will determine the degrees of the individual's acceptance to a particular group. Cultural factors, it is like some cultures are more able to draw people, because some cultures show a more collective tradition than others. So, in that case the group formation will be much higher, because your own background, your culture is giving a hint to it, like more people do conform to the norms, and it's strictly abided by. So, because this collective tradition is maintained, so it's very important for norms to be in place, so that to see that nothing is violated. Another important factor for group norms is of course group performance, and where it happens, like the leader, if he is in the position to reward or punish the group members for not obeying the group roles, norms, and then values of the group, etc., especially in the formal group, then there will be more norms. And in groups where there is no leader, single leader, that is self management groups, then the norms will be in something different. So, what we find is that in SMTs, or the self managed teams, in informal groups, the one who becomes a leader is viewed as a response, is viewed as a person with very high status, and he gets that respect from the expertise level that the person has. So, that person, that leader helps the group in accomplishing group goals, helps members to satisfy their needs, and represents the group to those of the outside the group. So, he plays the role of like a messenger and studying the environment and presenting the groups to the outside world. Group cohesiveness is one of the important issues. So, these are the factors acting upon the members to remain in the group, which are greater than those factors pulling the members away from the group. So, so better the cohesiveness, better is the conformity of the group norms. So, sources of attraction in group cohesiveness are groups are clear, group goals are clear and comfortable, people are comfortable with the group goals and it is compatible with their own values, and this will attract as a more cohesiveness, a glue will be better. Next is like charismatic leader, the power of the leader to hold the people back is another important thing. Then group reputation is an important factor in cohesiveness. So, mutual support by members, communication amongst the members, these are important issues in development of cohesiveness. So, degree of cohesiveness is related to the performance of the groups, and you will find like it is not always true, like if there is a very cohesive group, it will always lead to positive performance. So, it will depend on the relationship of cohesiveness with group performance will depend on how much the organizational goals and the group goals are congruent with each other. So, highly cohesive group and congruent group goals result in effective performance. So, but high cohesiveness and incongruent group will result in negative group performance. So, low cohesiveness and incongruent group goals will result in negative group performance, but low cohesiveness and congruent group goals probably result in positive good performance. So, this is a mix and match matrix that we do based on the availability or unavailability or your presence or not presence of the group goals, and the like how great a match is there or not there between the group goal and the organization's goal. So, next important aspect, like what we need to discuss about the group, is the group think effect. So, in highly cohesive groups, when the drive to maintain consensus is so great, like what happens, even if somebody is thinking individually, not in the way as the group is thinking and trying to make his comments on that, then a conflict arises in the mind of the individual, like whether to tell about the difference or to accept what is the group's way of thinking. So, the characteristics of the group think are like tendency to moralize about the goodness of the group's position, like okay, I will take into granted as many people are thinking in this way. So, maybe that way of thinking is correct, not my way of thinking. Then if there is a pressure to conform, you have to sort of conform, otherwise your membership is cancelled, then group think will, like people will even if they are having separate opinion about certain things to be done in some way, they will try to conform to the group's findings, and due to this cohesiveness factor. So, when you are talking of another aspect, which is the group shift. Group shift is a change in decision risk between the group's decision and the individual decision that member within the group would make, can be either toward conservatism or greater risk. So, this is another way like it which may influence which individual's performances, like if we have to take a decision regarding like whether to go the group's way or the individual's way. So, so the risk involved is taken first, like what will be the risk involved if I like say something which is different from what the group wants me to tell or hear. So, this is called a group shift effect. Group decision making techniques are interacting groups, like typical groups in which the members interact with each other face to face. Nominal group technique, in which a group decision making method is there, which involves members to meet face to face to pool their judgment on a particular and in a systematic way on a particular topic, and but it should be independent, like without discussion with 9 others, they have to give their views on it. Brainstorming is it's an idea generation process where people try to find out certain ideas and ways of doing things, etc. So, it specifically encourages any idea and all alternatives. So, as much as possible that can be find out, and withholding of that criticism about the alternative. So, if you have to judge whether this is a good alternative or bad, then maybe we are not following the proper brainstorming session. In brainstorming, you have to be very objectively think about like the different alternatives present in taking about a particular decision. Electronic meeting is where people meet through computers, interact on computers, and it gives you the anonymity of the comments and aggregations. Comments, and then because it is an aggregation of the comments made. So, you are not able to tell in particularity this person said something and something to me. So, but again people are generally prone to discuss and comment on something, and it also based on the seriousness of the issue, the importance of the issue, all these things will come up, and we will try to judge electronic meeting from both its, what we will tell, we will try to judge it from both its pros and cons aspect. And if this anonymity of comment is not mentioned, then it may lead to false or false comments or comments which are not going to help in any regard of decision making. So, this gives you an open platform to know about many of the views, but we should be concerned more of the ethical issues regarding this electronic meeting and brainstorming and all these factors. The effectiveness criteria of these decisions will depend on the number and quality of ideas, then the social pressure to tell something or to decide in particular way, the costs involved in each of these processes, the speed with which decisions are made, then what is your task orientation, how you want to do certain things. And again, these could be potential for interpersonal conflict, and we need to be committed to the solution. And if it goes to like some conflict attacks, counter attacks, it should be confined, it should be regarding the solution itself, and we try to see it from various perspectives, challenge it and all these things, so that we can arrive at a better solution. And development of group cohesiveness is also one of the factors. So, this cohesiveness again, as we have talked of, like group shifts and group things, like if there is too much of cohesiveness is good to certain extent, but if there is too much of cohesiveness and pressures from the group to think in the group's way only, then maybe then we have to think about the effectiveness of the decisions taken, because sometimes you hear the voice of the majority and some minority voices, in the sense like one people, two people who is thinking otherwise than what the group generally is thinking, is not taken into consideration, it gets overshadowed. Types of groups are again interacting groups, brainstorming groups, nominal groups and electronic groups. So, when we are talking of electronic groups, then there will be certain problems again regarding, like, we don't get to meet each other, face each other, face to face interactions is less. So, ethical issues may crop up regarding the transparency in the group, whether somebody is lying about the qualities, membership qualities and all these things. So technologically it is maybe more improved way, it provides an like increased platform to get into connection with so many members, but again it has its own problems which need to be dealt in certain ways. So, and again in nominal groups and brainstorming groups, while we are deciding, so in many cases we should be more concerned with the issue at hand about what we are deciding, and not become like, and if there is a conflict regarding the decisions made, then we should point more towards the issues and not become personal in, like, maybe attacking each other with some other aspect which is not directly connected with the issue at hand, about which we are deciding something. So, if these factors are kept into consideration, we are careful about these factors, then these groups are really very important ways of decision making and solving certain problems, coming out with new ideas which help to solve problems in the organization. So, end results of group formation could be synergism, which is the cooperative activity of group, which is more than just addition of individual performance. So, potential group performance is individual performance plus synergy, and actual group performance is potential performance minus faulty group processes. So, what we think to be the synergistic gains, it sometimes may be lessened by operational operating failures within the groups, like that is what we were discussing when we were talking of again like group shifts, group things and social loafing. All these are factors which are some of the drawbacks of the group effects. 3 criteria of group effectiveness are: extent to which the group's productive output meets the standard of quantity, quality and the timeliness of the users of the output; extent to which the group process of actually doing the work enhances the capability of the group members to work together interdependently in the future. So, again it depends on the leadership quality, whether it is participative in nature, whether it is benevolent in nature, how much decision making power you are given, what are the roles that you have to play, whether these roles are clear to you or not. So it and how do you, like, mutuality of the roles are there or not, how do you complement each other in performing the roles. All these aspects will determine like the whether the capability of the group's members to work together interdependently is developed or not as a part of being the group, or in name they will become groups, but actually they remain as individual entities within the group and are not getting developed from the dynamics of the group. Extent to which the group experience contributes to the growth and well-being of the members. So, how being a member of the group positively affects the growth and well-being of its members, how it has been fruitful to learn certain new things, like collaboration, when you are talking of collaboration, or giving away some of our own self-interest. This is very important, giving some of the self-interest away if you are to proceed for the group goals and think about the collective good, and building a sense of trust amongst each other. So, all this will lead to the psychological development of the members and lead to their growth and well-being. How I am getting support from the group members in some of my life experiences, all these will lead to well-being of the group members. Following questions are: what is the nature of groups? Discuss about the different types of groups with suitable examples. State the various reasons of group formation. Discuss about the stages of group development. What are the characteristics of the groups? Discuss the effect of group size, group norm and cohesiveness on individual and group performance. Critically evaluate the different group decision making techniques. In this connection, discuss group think and group shift. What is the end result of group formation? Discuss the criteria of effectiveness of group. So, in this lecture we have covered about like what is a group, what are the stages of group formation, how a group gets formed, what are the different criteria of effectiveness of the group, and how do you know what is the good effect of group formation, how it helps for the individual capacity building and well-being, and also what are the different group decision making techniques with the negative effects sometimes what like of group formations also, like group think, like group shape, like social loafing. So if we are careful about these factors and try to control for it, and we have also looked into like the punctuated equilibrium model, like where people are, where there is a peak and where there is a lag time, people are slowing down. So when we know these things and try to prevent them or try to control for these aspects, then groups and has an immense potential for improving and putting a buffer to the individuals. It is a great place to interact with the membership of the group, because people can learn so many things, share so many things, new ideas come up, and it adds to the great value addition is done in terms of like individual performance improvement, group performance improvement, and organizational performance improvement, and also the well-being of the members within the group. So both the formal and the informal groups, these are having immense role to play in the like both in the organizational process and also from the perspective of individual well-being. Thank you.